All right. So we have Coach Sherry. And do you want to tell us what exams you tutor for?
Hello, everyone. Again, I am Coach Sherry. I always say be nice. That's my middle name, Bogart. And I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Prior to, I retired my LAPSW title, which is Licensed Advanced Practice Social Work. And prior to that, I retired my LMSW license, which is Licensed Master Social Worker. And currently here at Academic Coaching, I am tutoring for LC as well as LM.
Thank you, Coach Sherry. Right, we will get started with our first question here. So, can you share a memorable success story of a student you helped pass their licensure exam?
Yes, would love to. Of course, those are the stories that make me, and I hope any other person that's helping someone just kind of excel and sit down and look at everything and say, what did I do with that student that I can use in the future? But we had one student, and I leave my time with this agency, which has been 2 years, a little over 2 years. I have gotten a lot of Dr. Pam students, which is an honor to me because when students come to me from Dr. Pam, it's not challenging because I was also a student of Dr. Pam in the past. And so it's not challenging. It just makes me push and work harder to assist people. Needless to say, there was a client who had probably everything under the sun and moon going on in their situation. I try to refrain from saying pronouns. Um, and so this person presented with issues within the home and just did not pass the test continuously, even after meeting with the best coach. And I always say it's not about the coach, it's about what you're learning from the coach and how you're using it. And so I always do a full assessment. And this particular person did have a disabled child, and during the sessions, the disabled child often will be disruptive, not intentionally, but I listen. That's one of the key things I do. I listen to the patient, not the patients, the clients, the students, and I hear their situations. So I always incorporated things, and we just made an off the side contract. Like we don't care what's going on. We're gonna stay focused. Whatever's going on with your child, if you know you can take 60 minutes and just ignore as long as it's not a dire situation. And I believe just assessing that person and thoroughly listening, and also this person had ADHD that was off the chain, like adult ADHD. Had not only been to me and Dr. Pam, but to four other tutors in the agency, which I always say tutors are like shoes. You have to find the right fit. If it's too tight, you take it off and you go try another one. You don't give up because everybody don't gel all the time. But needless to say, the person came to me and only wanted to work for 1 month. And I was like, nah, based off our assessment, I really need 3 more months with you. I had to get approval from Dr. Pam because this person had been with us for quite some time. And the approval was granted. And that person went and took their test and passed the first time. And I really felt like that. Believe it or not, I do have students that I can honestly tell them, I think you're going to pass. I think you're not going to pass. We do not use the word fail in my sessions. And I have students that I tell them like, I think like 80% you could pass, and the rest, the 20% you might not. So that is my success story. On top of that, that was within my first year of being with academic coaching, which then I had like 7 students, and of the 7, 5 passed their exam that particular year. So that's the wonderful thing about it.
Awesome. Yeah, you do a great job listening and being honest with clients.
Thank you.
So, what do you enjoy most about coaching clients for their licensure exams? And the second part is, how do you make your sessions enjoyable and productive?
What do I enjoy? Everything. So as a person that had a trying, and I do mean trying, moment with passing my LCSW exam, I think just not even think. I know I'm a person where words are very important. I am a certified life coach. But words are just so important. And I always tell my students, what you think is what's going to be perceived, is how it's going to come out. So my personal touch in our sessions that makes things pretty successful and workable is that we bring humor to my sessions. A lot of times when I'm meeting with people, they're worn out, they're tired, they're exhausted. All of us have families, we're taking care of somebody. We have pets, we have jobs that we hate, we have jobs where we're struggling. And so when an individual comes to me for a tutoring session, we have to laugh. And I tell them, look, for the next 60 minutes, whatever is going on in your life, put it to the side. And I will also stop a session. Unfortunately, if I see that you're not focused, and yes, all of our sessions are virtual, but over a course of time, I get to understand the body language. A lot of times we use a system called Pearl, and when I'm showing my screen, I don't see the client. I only hear them. And so I have to use my five senses, and I can hear like, you're not having a good day. And we'll just stop for a second. I do mean a second, and take a breath. And the reason we can stop for only a second during the session is because before the session starts, all of my students have 5 minutes. And of those 5 minutes, they get to tell me what they have done in this prior, during this day. If they feel like whatever happened before our session, if it's going to be disruptive to our session. So they're kind of doing a check-in. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bad. And of that 5 minutes, they have 2 minutes to talk about, I had a bad day at work, I want to strangle my boss. And then after that, they have to say, I'm done talking about it. I'm going to leave it alone. So if it comes up within our session and I see it's not going to stop, we stop the session because we're not going to get anywhere. But overall, I'm watching body language, listening to individuals and bringing that humor. So that's that personal touch that I'm bringing in because, again, I know what it's like. I was that student that was caring for mom, grandchild, two children, worrisome boyfriend, working. If anybody knows me, even my students are like, how do you do it? Jokingly, people think I'm Jamaican because I have multiple jobs. I have about 5 jobs. So I think sometimes even sharing my personal story with the students help with that as well.
Yes, absolutely. You're definitely a success story, and I know clients get to know that along the way.
Yeah.
One follow-up question. You also make your sessions very productive in the sense that you give clients specific homework to prepare for the next week. So can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about why you do that and how that's helpful?
The reason I give homework is because it really allows me to understand if the student got it. We also do teach back in our session, but the reality is, I recall when I was a student, and sometimes Dr. Pam would give me, I could ace it while she and I were on that virtual call together. But once I got off that call and I was looking at my assignments, I was just like, I'm lost. So after learning who my client is, the student, I use in my homework kinesthetic styles, anything audio as well as visual. And it's based off, again, not about anybody being ADHD, but the reality is we are working adults. And so we need something to keep us in tune, and especially a student that comes to you that has failed their test 3 times or 7 times or 10 times. And Lord forbid if you, and I use the word fail, but didn't pass. If you did not pass your test, you missed it by 2 points. Oh my God, it's devastating. And so those assignments are tailored to truly make sure they get it. So when a student comes back to the next session, after they've done their 5 minutes of check-in, it's to say, did you do your homework? And in our sessions, it's honesty. I can tell if you are lying to me. And I have had students all across the USA since I've been here, and they drop their head, they pounce their pencils on the desk, they start tapping, or their dogs start barking in the background. And after 2 seconds, I'm like, you didn't do your assignment. So we don't move on to the next a section. We stay where we are. Because the thing is, you came to us, you said you needed help. I today, it's not going off topic, but I put on my one of my social media pages that you are not successful because you are not consistent. You are not consistent because you are relying on others. In order to be successful, it starts with you. And I have a nonprofit, not selling anything, but our motto is being true starts with you. And so everything starts within the person. So if you're not honest with what you're doing or how you're doing it, on the other end, I can't be the person that you need me to be. I can't be your tutor. And I always use in my sessions, I'm just the coach. We always talk about basketball, whether you understand the game or not, but I'm the coach. You're the player. My students are the player. And I always say, well, what does the coach do? And they said, oh, stand on the sideline and yell. So that's all I can do. I stand on the sideline and I yell. I'm your biggest cheerleader. I'm your biggest fan. I'm your biggest supporter. And one thing you won't get from this interview is that if you really, really come in and be tutored by me, you can hear my trying story. It's a real deal breaker to the point where students are like, you took your test how many times? And I'm like, yep, I did. And it was like, you never gave up. I'm like, no, I didn't. And, I explained to them the amount of money that I put into taking my exam and meeting with the Dr. Pams and seeing the hypnosis and all the other things to try to kill the anxiety. But in reality, it was it was a simple thing that I needed to do. And I shared it with the students. And I think that's one of the reasons why they pass or they're very close to passing. And I leave it with just recently, within the last 6 weeks, I've had about 8 students maybe. And a lot of them have taken their exam. And I will put this caveat in, those students only saw me like 2 or 3 weeks before their exam, but they only missed their exam by 2 or 3 points. And they would text me and say, well, the reality is I text them because I know when they were taking their exam, and I text them around the time they should be coming out of the center, and I say, get your pass. And they'll respond back and say about 2 points. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to do blase, blase, and you're going to go take the exam again. We don't harp on it. And then when they call me, they say, you know what, I want to be mad. But working with you has put me to a point where I can't even be upset about it. I just got to be motivated to go out there and try it again because you did it this amount of time. So I know I can do it. So again, that's my motivational piece. I use a lot of my own personal stories to share with students in order to help them. But again, it's all about consistency. It starts with you. My goal, which is the motto of my nonprofit, so I use it every day, is to educate, elevate, and empower. And that's what I do. So I bring the energy during our sessions.
Yep, you always show up ready to go 100%. That is for sure. I love that quote that you shared.
Thank you.
Okay, so we know, like you were mentioning, you know this firsthand because you've taken the test multiple times. There's a
Mhm.
lot of pressure. People have jobs on the line, they have a deadline they have to take the test by, you name it. So, how do you motivate students and support them if they're feeling overwhelmed or discouraged?
Honesty. And it's that easy. Um, I come to them, I'm very transparent. My students know when I'm upset, they know when I'm tired, and not tired of life or anything else, just tired of their bull crap because they're playing around or not being consistent, as I just mentioned. And so that honesty and that transparency get us a long way. So I come to them and say, hey, what did you say when you first came to academic coaching? And I was like, I want to pass my exam. So what are you doing? I remind them of what they did do and what they're not doing and the areas where they can actually excel in. Before we end calls, I'm having them to write things down. There's a method that I've given them. So when they go in the testing room, this testing site, they know this is what I do first before I get started. There's also a method that I use throughout all of my sessions. So when we're doing test questions, which everybody loves test questions, But if you take me a full 3 months, you might hate me a little bit because I make you read. And it's a really hard book to read. I don't like using that term, but it really is kind of hard to read. But I help the students break that reading material down because you hear Dr. Pam say it all the time, content, content, content. And if we just do questions all day, you can memorize questions. Can you memorize content? And so that's the ultimate goal. And so just believing in my students, seeing their weakness and helping them build on it motivates them 100%. So it goes back to what I first started off with, the transparency. Hey, chick, you didn't do your homework. You're not doing this right. How did you really answer that question like that? And so those are things I'm doing throughout the session. They know if I don't say anything, they even know my facial expression. And they was like, so I just skipped over about 5 words. And I was like, you sure did. So do you want to go back and read that over again? So what we're doing is I always tell them in our sessions the way we practice is the way we're going to play. And I really do want to win a championship. I want, if I have 10 students a year or two, I want all 10 or two to pass their exam because I know how important this is. And I know how exhausting it gets at the end after 2 or 3 times. And you're like, I have spent this amount of money. And I tell students in the reality, and I have had students that challenge me and they've added it up. I have spent over $20,000 in trying to pass my exam. That includes traveling out of town to go to another testing site because I felt like my testing sites in Memphis was janky. And those are things that students come to me with, and I'm like, all this stuff is a joke. It's not real. It's just something that has gotten embedded in our head because it's something we really want and we're not getting it. And so that transparency is how I motivate individuals. And like I said, now when they don't pass their exam, they calling me and they're like, I didn't pass. I want to cry, but it's crazy because I can't. I want to be mad. But Miss Sheila, I don't know why I can't be mad. And I'm like, it's from the conversations that we've been having. So they're motivated to go out and just try again. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Coach Sherry. Any final things you want to add?
I just want to tell people, don't give up. You can take this test 20 times. There are people out there that have taken it 20 times. A previous student of Dr. Pam was like 60. We were in group together and she motivated me. She was like, I'm 60. I come from the dino age. And she passed her exam. And like 3 weeks later, she was teaching because Dr. Pam, as we know, travels the world. And she needs a break. She deserves it. And just watching that individual. So whatever you do, don't give up. If you don't have the money, there are other strategies out there. But most definitely, I think I will say I have used several companies, even in conjunction with when I was working with Dr. Pam. And for me, it all worked. But I tell my students after assessing some of them, I don't think your brain is made to work with 4 or 5 people because they'll come to me and be like, I read such and such and such, or I watched such and such and such. And they want me to break it down that way. And I'm like, I can't. I only can break it down my way or the way I know things. And sometimes when I try to make them do a comparison in another company they've used compared to our company, academic coaching, they're just like, it sort of kind of don't make sense anymore. So not trying to sell anything, but I really, really, truly want to say, and this is not a race thing at all, but if anybody truly know, there are statistics, real statistics that was posted by the NASW of social work that indicated that African American women fail this test at a higher rate than their Caucasian female counterparts. So there is something going on. So one thing I will say, after working with a million people, I connected with Dr. Pam, who was an African American woman who revealed and reveals that she had ADHD. She became a professor. She worked really hard. She earned her doctorate, things of that nature. So it was those things, seeing someone like me, even as an adult, who, although she passed her exam on the first time, but just the way she taught was easier for me to understand because obviously the numbers don't lie, and there's something we're missing. So not just saying to African American individuals, but I really think this would be an excellent company for you to come to if you are trying to master your LMSW, LAPSW, or LCSW. So give us a try. But one thing I will say in giving us a try greater than 2 weeks. At least give us 3 months. And in some cases, if you know your learning style or you know your commitment or your dedication is not as committed or as dedicated as you need to be, meaning if you, an example, if you can't meet weekly, you might need to meet for 6 months. And just have things planned out when you come to us. But please give us a try, and you can ask for me by name, Sherry Bogart. For the older people, you can remember me by Humphrey Bogart, or for the younger people, you can remember me by the lady named Denise. I'm really nice unless you push my button. And it's just the thing if you tell me that you want to be committed, I'm going to hold you to that. So whatever energy I'm giving you is because of a promise that you have given me. That's it.
Yes, a promise they give you, and I know that you have so much passion and dedication to your students, and you truly believe in them and want the best for them.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Sherry. It was great to talk to you. And
Uh,
yes, like she mentioned, definitely reach out for some sessions with her and uh, let us know if you have any questions.